Ideal Homes, we have mortgage service here. We have a bilingual mortgage team, or else we will speak English and Portuguese. And we're here to help all people that are looking for mortgages, not just by purchasing Ideal Homes properties, but for anybody that's looking for a mortgage from Braga in the north until Villarreal, Sant Antonio in the south, in Açores and Madeira as well. So like I said, we are bilingual mortgage team here. There are no costs whatsoever for our brokerage fees, okay? So it's a free service for the clients on our side, and we're here to help you. Very good. So in my personal opinion, Portugal is a fantastic place to invest, to come from. I myself am from the UK, and I've been living here in Portugal for the past 20 years. And if you look at, for example, all the Ideal Homes team, most of them are from the UK, are from South Africa, are from the States, are from Canada, and everybody's relocated and living in Portugal at the moment and set up their lives here. Portugal is, first of all, the entrance gateway to Europe. Okay, so by landing in Portugal, in Lisbon, Porto, or in Faro, you have access to all the major cities in Europe. Portugal is a safe country, okay, as well. Lifestyle in Portugal is fantastic. It is. The culture and the cuisine, the Portuguese food is lovely as well. Living in Portugal is not as expensive as it is out there, for example, and 90% of our clients are from the States or from the UK. So, but living in Portugal, the Portuguese lifestyle, it's much more cheaper than in the US or the UK. And the property market here in Portugal and mainly in Algarve is fantastic. So property value has increased and is increasing between 6 to 9% every year. And interest rates are lower in Portugal than, for example, in the UK and the US. So it's a fantastic opportunity, and Portugal at this moment is the right place to invest. Normally two scenarios. This is independently which country the clients are coming from, but in average we have two scenarios. We have scenario number one: the client already has a property chosen, a property in mind, a property that have made an offer on, and they come and reach out to us for a mortgage against that property. The client needs 70% finance, 80% finance. The client comes to us with a property already chosen. Then we have the second hand, which is mostly 60 or 70% of our leads come like this. The client has no property chosen yet. They don't understand, they don't know exactly what percentage of finance they can afford, what amount of finance they can afford. So normally they contact us. We send them an Ideal Homes inquiry form. They fill up with their financial information. We assess that information and come back and give the client two important feedbacks here, two important answers. First of all, based on the information they provide, we give them a pre-approval on what would be the maximum amount they can borrow here in Portugal. Then, based on the maximum amount that they can borrow in Portugal, we give them automatically a price range, a budget of properties they should be looking at. So let's imagine that the client can qualify for a 200,000 euro mortgage, for example, for 80% finance. We will tell that client that their budget for looking at a property will be around about, for example, the 300,000 euro mark. So the client knows already their budget for the finance and for the property they wish to buy. You don't have to be a Portuguese resident. Anybody in the world can apply for a mortgage here in Portugal. Of course, there are different criteria if you are a resident here in Portugal, if you are a Portuguese resident or not, but anybody can apply for a mortgage here in Portugal. Whilst you're based in Portugal, whilst you're based in any European Union country, whether you're based outside the European Union, you can ask and look for a mortgage here in Portugal. So we do have a lot of questions with this, and I want to put them on the first answer straight away. There are no interest-only mortgages here in Portugal at the moment, okay? And no deferred capital mortgages. What we have are simple repayment mortgages, and the client will have three options to choose from. First of all, you have the normal variable rate mortgage, or else variable rate mortgages are located to Euribor 6 months. Euribor is the base rate here in Europe, set up by the Central Bank of Europe. It's called Euribor, and it's reviewed in this case every 6 months if we're looking at Euribor 6 months. Then the bank applies its margin spread on top of the base rate, and this is what makes up the client's interest rate, okay? If a client chooses a variable rate mortgage, it will be reviewed every 6 months, okay? So if the interest rate goes up, the monthly payments will go up. If the interest rate goes down, the monthly payments will go down. If the rate maintains the same, the monthly payments will be exactly the same. A good thing about the variable rate mortgage is regarding the early penalty charges for paying off the mortgage earlier, or if a client wants to pay off some lump sums. By taking a variable rate mortgage, the early repayment penalty is just 0.5% of the amount that is paid off, okay? A second option that the client has is a full-term fixed rate mortgage. So let's imagine that I take a mortgage for 20 years or 25 years. I'm able to fix my mortgage for the full term of the process. I'm able to fix my mortgage for 20, 25, 30 years, okay? The mortgage can be fixed always in timeline or brackets of 5 years. The fixed rate is good. It gives you more security, or else you know that even if you're in the US or if you're in the UK, that you have to have a certain amount every month in your bank account to cover the mortgage payments. And you can hear about base rates going up, etc. in Europe, that the mortgage payments will always be the same. It is security, but of course the security has its price. Or else if you take a fixed rate mortgage, the early repayment penalty will be, instead of 0.5%, 2% of the amount you pay off. Okay, so it's more expensive, it is, but like I said, security has its price. Then the client can have a third option, which is a mixed fixed rate mortgage. Or else, let's imagine that the client takes a mortgage of 20 years. He's able to fix it for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. The client can choose once again in time brackets of 5 years how long he wants to fix the mortgage for. So let's imagine that the client takes a mortgage for 30 years. He fixes it for 10 years. During the first 10 years, the monthly payments will always be the same. Once the 10-year fixed rate period is over, it reverts automatically to 6 months variable until the end of the mortgage term. Early repayment penalties, once again, 2% of the amount paid off during the fixed rate period. Once it reverts to variable, 0.5% of the amount paid off. So these are the three types of mortgages that the client can look at here in Portugal at the moment. It is a very simple process. The time it can take, normally it takes more because clients do tend, in most cases, to take a long time to supply us with all the necessary documents that we request. We only submit the mortgages to the banks once we have the full application. We don't come back and say, we're missing this, we're missing that. No, only when the clients send us all the documents requested do we submit to the bank. How does it work? Like I said, we have our mortgage team here. It is myself, it is Carol Whittle, and it is Margarida Neto. So basically, once we receive a lead from a client, we send the inquiry form to assess the financial information. Based on the inquiry form that the client sends to us back filled up, we do straight away a pre-approval. Once the client has a formal offer accepted on a property, based on information we gave on the pre-approval, we start the formal mortgage process. Or else we then email the client and send them the bank forms for them to fill up and sign based on the banks that we will be submitting the application to. based once again on information that the client provides us. Or else we will submit with 2 or 3 banks based on the criteria that the client wants. If the client does not want a certain thing, we're not going to send to a bank that only does that. So we cherry pick, like I said, the banks that we send the applications. Then we ask the clients to fill up the bank forms. We put a list of necessary documents for them to email to us as their personal documents and all the property documents. Once we have everything in place, then either Margarida or Carol will guide the client through the formal mortgage process until completion. So in average, once we have all the necessary documents in our possession, probably 1 to 2 weeks maximum until we have the bank's approval, then until the title deed, another 2 to 3 weeks. So from scratch until the title deed, you're probably looking at 1 month, 1.5 months, 2 months maximum. I always ask, and I think it is always a good time to make a pre-approval, because in my years of experience, and I do have a lot of years of experience in the banking world, in the mortgage world here in Portugal. It is very important for a client to do a financial qualification before he starts looking at the property. Otherwise, what could happen? You come into a real estate agent, Ideal Homes, or any real estate agents that I like to speak, you're in Portugal and you want to buy a property of 500,000, for example, and the sales rep will accompany you during probably 1 week or 3 or 4 days, showing you properties around about the 500,000 euro mark. Then when time comes, you go into the financial qualification after, you see that you can not match up with what you want. And it's a bit disappointing for you, because you've been putting up your expectations for the 500,000 euro property, but then probably the client can only afford a 300,000 euro property. And sometimes the other way around. Sometimes the client thinks he can only buy a 400,000 euro property, but it can buy a 1 million or 800,000 euro property. So I think even before you found the property, start a pre-approval mortgage process is very important. The financial qualification for you to know what is your budget whilst looking for a property and the maximum amount you can borrow. Ideal Homes brokerage fee, mortgage fee does not exist, or else it's a free service to all our clients. But clients do have to be aware there are costs here in Portugal. The bank will charge costs regarding getting the mortgage. So besides the deposit, the 20 or 30% deposit that the client will have to put down as minimum, which is normal, the clients should always make sure that all the costs and fees are already included or not, if it's included or not in the deposit. Because besides the 20 or 30% deposit, the client should be looking always at having around about 7 to 8%. I look at 7% of the purchase price for all the taxes, stamp duties, notary charges, registers, everything. And like I said, in Spain, for example, you'd be looking between 10 and 12% of the purchase price for the property for the expenses. Here in Portugal, you'll be looking at around 7% of the purchase price for the expenses. So this is another reason why it is better to invest in Portugal than, for example, in our next door neighbors, for example, in Spain. So the client should be always looking at 20 or 30% deposit plus another 7% on top. This is very important, and sometimes clients do not realize this. Some banks do have life insurance as mandatory, others do not, okay? This all depends on which bank, which mortgage lender provider we'll be looking at. But in average, for us to be steady and be frontal, if a client is looking for an 80% mortgage, the bank will oblige the client to subscribe life insurance. We do have lenders here that, if you look at 70% finance, will not oblige you to subscribe life insurance. Now, regarding life insurance, and this is very important, whilst going for life insurance from the bank, the client can do if he wishes, of course. But we normally look at clients that purchase properties in Portugal for investment are normally 45 years of age plus. And when we look at this, and the client has to subscribe life insurance, the payments on the life insurance are going to be very, very, very expensive. Very expensive. So what we tend to do here, we do have agreements with independent insurance companies that will allow the client to subscribe life insurance, but probably paying half of the monthly installment with them than they would with a bank, for example. And these insurances will be accepted by the bank. So, like I said, the client has a choice. If he does not want to take life insurance, 70% finance. At 80% finance, he will have to take life insurance. But like I said, we can help out afterwards, indicating to them independent mortgage insurance companies that will cut their monthly payments down regarding the life insurance. So basically, regarding the mortgage criteria, the mortgage lending here in Portugal, there are two main facts that are important to go over here. First of all, banks look normally at two main criteria whilst granting a mortgage. First of all, it's the percentage of finance that here in Portugal, the banks call LTV, the loan to value. It's in English though, which gives you the percentage of finance. It's the finance that the client is asking against the property value, the purchase price of the property. And the second one is the debt to income ratio. Okay, this is a very important factor, and this is a 90% guideline that if you'll get a mortgage in Portugal or not. This debt to income ratio cannot exceed 35%, taking into account the outgoings with the mortgage here. And normally banks call this taxa de esforço, or TE. So we have LTV, loan to value, and TE, taxa de esforço, which is the debt to income ratio. Then, whilst looking at a simulation, for example, interest rate here in Portugal will appear as TAN, taxa anual nominal. Okay, you will see the base rate on a simulation, which is called Euribor. You will see spread, which is the bank's margin below, and we will see TAN below, which is the interest rate, which is made by the Euribor plus the spread, and that is the TAN. Then we have the TAEG, which is the total cost of the mortgage. That always appears as well on the simulation. And this is made up by the interest rates plus additional any bank products that the banks oblige the clients to subscribe to lower the interest rates. So insurances, credit cards, payments into account, etc. This will affect the total cost of your mortgage and will appear on the TAEG. Then, for finally, to hand it off, we have the MTIC, which is very important, which is the total cost in figures of the mortgage for the client. So the client there will see, if I'm taking a 200,000 euro mortgage, how much will it cost me afterwards? And it will say there, the total cost of your mortgage, if you finish the mortgage term, will be 300,000 euros, 280, whatever. Everything is there. So this is the MTIC. And when you compare simulations from each bank, don't just look at the spread, but look at the MTIC, because sometimes I can have a lower spread in a certain lender, but then the mortgage cost will be higher because of all the background products that the banks oblige to subscribe. So very important to compare simulations. Okay, first of all, we have to be careful because one thing is the client buying a property in his own country. The other thing is buying a property abroad. And if we're not familiar to the process of purchasing a property and getting a mortgage in that specific country, sometimes bad things can happen. People can be misdeceived. People can be given the wrong information. So what, first of all, I would advise whilst looking for a mortgage, always work with a certified mortgage company, a certified mortgage broker, okay? How do you see if they're certified or not? They have to be certified by the Bank of Portugal. And on the email address, on the website from the company or outside the door of the office, if it is a licensed Bank of Portugal mortgage provider, mortgage broker, it has to say there, okay? Only proper licensed mortgage brokers licensed by the Bank of Portugal are authorized to give professional advice and take care of mortgage applications for the clients here. At Ideal Homes, this is the case, okay? So we are, once again, completely licensed by the Bank of Portugal. I myself have more than 16 years of experience in mortgages here in Portugal, in the Algarve. We have a full professional mortgage team to help you. And besides this, we can give you free advice, once again, on the life insurance side with no cost whatsoever for you. We can provide that service. We can provide as well, if you do not have a lawyer, we do work with fantastic professional lawyers, which we can indicate for you, okay? Regarding currency exchange as well, we work very closely with moving currency, which is Claire. Claire is a fantastic person and the best person to turn to if you're looking to send currency over from the US and UK to Portugal, okay? She can quote you higher rates than any bank can, and even with the competition, okay? We have our rentals team as well that can assist you afterwards, after you bought the property, with the renting out your property and managing your property. So here at Ideal Homes, we have a full service package for the clients. Once you buy and choose Ideal Homes, you're choosing the full package that will guide you with 100% professionalism since you start your property hunts, with the mortgage, with the lawyer, with the tax advice, with the life insurance company, with the after sales team, with the rentals team, okay? So this, in my opinion, is a fantastic service for the client, and a client that is looking to buy a property in Portugal and getting a mortgage, first of all, should look at if it's a licensed company or a licensed mortgage provider by the Bank of Portugal. And like I said, if you're able to get a 5-in-1 deal or 6-in-1 deal whilst looking at the first point, it's the best way to go.